Hello, I'm Philip, and this is the Bear Den. At the Vinshuti Wildlife Sanctuary, visitors hear about techniques that we use to deter bears from approaching humans outside of the magic circle. We refer to these as negative reinforcement, which vary depending on the situation. If you're in a car and a bear passes by outside of the feeding area, we blast the horn, rev the engine to communicate that it's not a safe space for the bear, and we're asking them to leave. If we see a bear near cabins, we bang things loudly and sometimes throw something in the bear's general direction, so they learn they're not welcome there. It is for their own good, and it's a form of communications that I guess both parties will understand. And I may be making a bit of a leap here, but it does bring to mind how people that work with animals communicate with them, and one of those ways is through training. Now, I'm not talking about training animals to do tricks in a circus. I'm talking about animals, generally not wild ones, but ones that are in long-term human care, such as rescue facilities, sanctuaries, or zoos. While in Borneo, I've mentioned that I've been to Borneo, right? I initially focused on providing rescued animals with bigger enclosures so they could roam freely and provide plenty of enrichment, ranging from natural to man-made. Enrichment is providing novel items that mentally and physically stimulate an animal. It gets them thinking and moving about. So, enrichment can be things like I'd get logs from the forest, leaf litter, puzzle enrichment, scent enrichment, termite ant nests, and filling bamboo with all sorts of things like ice or, hard to reach stuff that'll occupy them for sometimes hours. I was always watchful for things I could potentially give to the bears. Even now, I sometimes walk past logs when I'm just at home in the park and think, oh, that's a good log for a bear. Whilst I was out there, I met my friend Adrienne. She came to visit for over a month on a couple of occasions, and she's worked in animal husbandry for over 20 years and currently works at Honolulu Zoo in Hawaii. I'd not really considered training before, but through watching her doing training with some of the bears, I realised how effective and life-changing it could be. Training is something that can be highly beneficial for an animal needing lifelong care. It opens up communication and creates a relationship between human caregivers and the bears. Not only can training give a traumatised bear their confidence back, they can learn to trust the caregiver, it can better facilitate health checks, and provide a good form of exercise. Training techniques vary from teaching bears with a reward to put their nose to an object or to present their claws and allow caregivers to examine them. None of these behaviours are for show or for amusement, but purely for the good of the animal. And thankfully as well, the training is also good at diffusing tensions between bears. Rewards vary from high-value food like honey to nutritious treats like dog food. With these training techniques, trust is established. With trust, more of a bear's personality comes through and better health checks can be made. It's a win-win situation and shows that if you open up to the animal, they will open up to you and you will get to know each other better. And as we will hear in today's episode, it can really help tackle issues such as stereotypic behaviour. So my partner, Asha, who designed the logo for the podcast, and I went to a wedding in Hawaii in December 2025. We did the usual stuff and got to see where Jurassic Park was filmed, so that was pretty rad. And we did visit Honolulu Zoo, because how could we not? And I got to see Adrienne in action there as well and meet some of the animals I'd heard a lot about. So I thought it would be fun to have her come on into the Bear Den, and you can hear from someone who knows a lot more about this than me, and you'll really hear her passion shine through. We also talk about some of the amazing results we've seen with some of the bears we've worked with. So, let's take it away. There is a place in the remote northwoods of Minnesota, North America. It's located near the town of Orr, population approximately 300. Outside of this town is an area where normal rules are put to one side. It's a place where humans and wildlife meet. It's a special place, wholly unique and not without its controversies. This is the Vinshuti Wildlife Sanctuary, run by the American Bear Association, ABA for short. The ABA is dedicated to promoting a better understanding of black bears and all wildlife through education, observation, and experience. I'm your host, Philip Pstubley, and welcome to the Bear Den. Now we're cooking. Hi, Adrienne.
Hello, aloha.
Hi. Oh, yes. So would you like to introduce yourself and tell us where you're speaking to us from? You might have given a bit of a clue there.
My name is Adri, and I am speaking all the way from Honolulu, Hawaii. And I know Philip through doing work in Borneo, so I like those small, isolated little island places, I guess.
Yeah. How is Honolulu today?
It is a little bit overcast. The volcano is erupting right now on Big Island. And so my voice is a little bit raspy because that's what happens when the volcano erupts. But other than that, obviously it's like perfect weather here. I don't know Celsius because I'm American, but it's 80
Oh,
Fahrenheit.
I mean, I should know. I should really know, shouldn't I? But it sounds hot. It's hotter than here. Let's put it that way. I know that for sure. Well, how did you, in so many words, how did you get to where you are right now?
I feel like I'm a lucky one in that sense, as I kind of knew what path I would be going on. I knew I would be working with animals. I knew I would be helping animals. I don't really remember a time where I wasn't sure of where I would be heading. Borneo specifically came to mind for me in college. I had to do a presentation in front of the class, and I did a presentation on deforestation. And I discovered Dr. Galdicus through that. And I was like, who is this woman? And she's my hero. And look at all of this amazing work that she's doing. And I was like, okay, you know what? I am going to work for this woman by the time I'm 30 years old. And I actually made it happen. It was a few months after my 30th birthday that I made it to Borneo to do rescue work with Dr. Galdicus. And I was really proud of myself for hitting that goal. Bears, I think they were always part of my life mission, and I may have kind of, gotten off path because I love all animals. And then once I started working with bears, they were like my animal.
Mm.
There's just a click there. I really understood them, and I realized that I had this gift with them, especially sun bears. They're just these kind of neurotic, extra smart, extra hyper, little pint-sized animals, and I could really relate to them in a lot of ways. And so I kind of understood that anxiety that they get if they're overstimulated and or having like a rough past, and it just clicked, I guess. It feels like a calling. And one thing that I realized my first year in Borneo that was a really huge aha moment was I had drawn a picture when I was five or six. And it was one of those assignments in school where you're like, where are you going to be in 20 years? What will you be doing? And it was actually a picture of me in like a little safari hat, and I'm holding a bear, and it's not a teddy bear, it's like a bear in the wild, and I'm outside of the cage. So it's almost like I drew a picture of myself doing release work when I was a child, and I had found it right before I started college and was cleaning stuff out of the closet and just set it aside and completely forgot about it. And then I remembered that picture my first year, and it was a beautiful moment realizing that I had already accomplished my dreams, and
Mm.
little he would be very, very proud. And it was also just knowing that I was on the right path, and that was the path that I was supposed to be on. So I just kept on it from there.
Yeah, no, that's great. Talk about manifest destiny for when you're 5 years old, right? We will get to Borneo, but I kind of wanted to just talk to you a little bit about your work with animal husbandry leading up to that, just to give a bit of context for people listening. Because how long have you actually worked in animal husbandry now?
I work at the Honolulu Zoo. I am the sun bear trainer, and I am the elephant keeper. I've been an elephant keeper for 11 years now, and I work with Mario Vaigai. I love them to death.
Oh yeah,
So bears,
please tell us about Mari and Bagai. Your two Indian elephants, right?
yes, they're Indian elephants, my girls. The longer I work with elephants, the more I just can't even explain animal intelligence. They have taught me so much. I think that a lot of understanding animals really can't be proven through science. And I actually really started off as that quantitative scientist that wanted numbers and a lot of facts to back things. And working with elephants kind of blew all of that out of the water because I can't explain how they know some of the stuff that they know or how they feel some of the things that they feel. So they really opened my eyes even wider as far as understanding and working with animals and becoming the best trainer that I can be, not breaking things down into just one word commands when working with them because their intelligence is beyond what we're able to prove and comprehend. I love working with those girls. They have two
Mhm.
totally different personalities. Mari is our matriarch. She is loving and sweet and intuitive, and she keeps Vi Guy in line. Vi Guy is our little punk, but I love her. She is very selective about her people, and so to be one of her people is a great honor. But she is one that will definitely test you, and you have to really be on your A game with her. It could be just a subtle shift of the eye movement, or even like how she kind of moves her trunk real quick, and you need to know when to back up. So she really kind of fine tunes you in to working with animals and doing training, is to like all those subtle little tiny movements are important. When you're working with an animal that's over 10,000 pounds or over 5,000 kilograms, you are so minor compared to them. It could just be them turning wrong and you would be greatly injured. And so it really gives you perspective and respect. And I love working with those girls. It is such an honor to be accepted by elephants. And they really did make me earn it. They say it takes about 2 years of working with an elephant before they accept you as a herd member. And that is definitely true. And then they made me really put the full 2 years in. They were always good with me, but it was about 2 years before I started really getting like the quirks in their personalities, the fun little noises that they make, the moments where they just want scratches. We'll kind of like lean against the mesh so you can get in there and give them a good butt scratch or whatever. And yeah, it really means a lot when you have to earn it so much with an animal. You got to meet Blackie.
Well, yeah, I was literally just about to say we met Blackie. How's he doing? What was his story again? How he arrived at Honolulu?
Blackie actually arrived with Juita. He had arrived at the zoo before my time. He was in Ohio, I believe, before that. I actually thought that I don't know the very beginning of Blackie's story, which is what we're used to in this field.
Yeah.
So I actually found out that Blackie was wild caught while doing a press release. And you see my face just drop. And like in that 1 second, I am thinking of every single bear in Borneo, all of the work that like we do, where my principles lie, where my values lie, and I'm in front of cameras. And so if you know me, you know that there was like a million things going through my head in that moment. But if you're just watching it, you see someone just be like, and then smile at the camera and be like, okay, so
Moving on.
I do. I know he was wild caught, unfortunately, which I know it's that's really sad to me. So that was a lot to take in. When I first started working with Blackie, he was not trained, was neurotic. Like he was known as like the stereotypical bear.
Yeah,
And
there's definitely that kind of, oh, well, he's all, they're always like that. I don't know, there's a bit of an attitude, isn't there?
yeah, and I actually got recognition from AZA when they came when a few years down the road and they met Blackie and Juita and they're doing their inspection and the bears are out in their yard. They have a huge yard to run around in. And they just came right up to the gate, the keeper gate, and were like, and hooked their claws onto the gate, came right up to the inspectors and were like, oh, hi there, to these strangers. And the inspectors were like, what? These are not normal. And I was like, no. I was like, I am very, very heavy on the enrichment. I work with wild bears. I believe that we need to be working with bears like we are working with great apes. And I told them how they need to be like constantly foraging for food and blah, blah, blah. And so my bears are always busy. And I train them several times a day and they're crazy smart. And I don't break it down to really simple behaviors. And I did some behaviors with the bears for the inspectors. And I didn't know that they were like going to recognize that later. But when they were giving us the results from the inspection, I was the only one who got like the special recognition. And they recognized like my work for bears. And they said that they had never seen such non-stereotypical bears. And I don't know, it actually made me sad in a lot of ways because it was like, well, where's the bar then?
I'm glad that you were recognized, but I see what you're saying with that. Yeah.
They should all be like
Hmm.
happy. So what, like, I don't feel like I'm that special. Why isn't, there, we shouldn't accept that stereotypical bears are normal.
No. Just in case there's someone listening that's not familiar with stereotypic behaviors, so stop me if I'm wrong. It's generally due to some kind of like overstimulation or frustration the bear's feeling, and it can manifest itself in certain repetitive behaviors. We've been taught about training, and I basically got to understand how training can improve a captive or a rescue animal's life through with working with you, especially when there's like those behavioral challenges if a bear's suffering from like impacts like from the lack of learning when they were younger, like long-term stress, anxiety, which can cause all this aggression. And if there's like something new introduced, sometimes they just like, they don't know how to handle it right. If you could talk about like how training is an important tool to establish communication and trust between people and animals, and also if you could kind of explain how in certain ways that can help with stereotypical behaviors.
Yeah, yeah. It's my favorite topic. I want to say growing up, because now I've been in the field for over 20 years. In the field, in zoo world, stereotypical behavior would be something that guests would even see. It's where an animal's like pacing a lot, coprophagic behavior, which would be eating fecal matter, and which could also be nutritional as well, or stress indicated, or excessive licking. And typically in zoo world, it would be because they're bored or they're overstimulated by guests. I think too with bears, it's so many different smells when you have a sense of smell that's that intense, and your world is painted through smell, and everything coming at you constantly, and it can cause a lot of stress in their life. And in zoo world, I am using like training and enrichment as a way to kind of help them adjust to their habitat around all these new influences coming in. And I didn't necessarily realize going into rescue work how beneficial and life-changing that it would be. I just knew like I had this ability to help animals stay distracted, help them stay engaged, to come up with enrichment ideas that would replicate natural behaviors quite easily, especially with sun bears. But then when I started getting into rescue work, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this whole like enrichment training program. And it ended up being a life-changing thing for these bears. It ended up being totally different because it kind of made me realize that with rescue work that the job is not done when you just move the animal into a sanctuary, because they still don't understand that this two-legged animal that had taken everything away from them previously is now suddenly okay, and that there was this missing link with rescue work, especially with these highly intelligent animals that are extremely sensitive to everything going on around them. And that's when I really discovered through my first trip in Borneo that, wow, actually training and enrichment is life-changing. It saves lives, and it has long-lasting results. And it these bears are officially rescued once they realize that these humans that they're with now are not going to harm them in any way. Because if they don't realize that, it's still not a rescue. It's still terrifying for them if they're pacing around constantly, if they are beating a path into the ground.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it really changed my whole world, and became my main focus after that.
Training, it's like they have the choice to take part, right, as well. And it's fun for them, right?
With the training, it's more about communicating. I
Hmm.
kind of like communicating a little bit more than training, actually, in
Right.
term wise. And
Oh, I'm fine with
especially
that.
rescue work, the animal has to 100% have choice. I'm more so trying to earn my trust with them and create a language that both of us can understand so that we can work together and address medical needs or address any needs. So it's not confusing and stressful, and so that it becomes the animal's choice rather than like, I'm going to make you do this so that you can get your vaccinations. I'd rather it be something where, oh, hey, if I lean here, I'll get a reward. And then one time you're going to lean there and have a knockdown, but it's not going to be any different from a training session. But I think creating that language is extremely important. And with sun bears, I realized that they all kind of have a different language as well. So it's not only important for the bear, but it's important for me to really understand that individual.
Hmm.
And
Every bear's an individual. They're all different.
communication is so variable as well that it's like you can know all the cues for an animal behavior of like getting wide-eyed or the hair standing up, but sun bears are also different. You don't technically have all of the normal cues that you would go off of with working with, like, let's say we'll break it down like a dog. When an animal is excited or upset, they get really wide-eyed. Well, some bears have tiny little beady eyes, or you'll see their ears change or perk or go back. But like sun bears, tiny little ears that you can barely see. Tail wag, tail up, down. Tail's usually a flag in animal world. Can't really see a sun bear tail. And so you really become so in tune with the body language of a sun bear because you don't go off of any of the normal cues that you would go off of when working with an animal and trying to understand their language. And I find that so fascinating about bears. I absolutely love it with working with sun bears. And I would say it was Oo who really showed me how each individual has their own language.
I know OO holds a special place in your heart, and I was gonna kind of ask you about her.
Okay, Oo, that's really where it all began for me and where I that click happened to where I understood that training and enrichment really does save lives. And going back to what I had previously just said, that the rescue's not necessarily done when you take them from a bad situation and put them into what you perceive as good, as just being like a more space. If they don't understand that the people that they're around now are safe to be near, that they're not going to harm them. And Oo is who really taught me that and who opened my eyes to sanctuary world and bear rescue work. When I had first met Oo, she was running and had been running in a circle for so long that she had actually beaten a path into the dirt that was almost like concrete. It was rock hard. But I actually went in there to turn the dirt. That was my first step. As to kind of breaking that stereotypical behavior was to upset the path that she had beaten, to make her kind of have to stop running in that circle and take a minute to sniff something different, to kind of distract her from that repetitive behavior. She had not really had much human contact, even though she had been rescued, because she was vicious. So she would
Hmm.
charge everyone. She was a very
Yeah,
aggressive
I think she
bear.
was she was like an ex-pet, I think, basically, wasn't she?
I never fully understood her whole background, but
There's a lot of them they don't ask
yeah.
questions when they're brought, and they're just like there's hardly ever any paperwork. So with some of them, it's guesswork.
Oh, God. She obviously had a really rough past. When I first met her, trying not to cry, because I'm such an emotional person and I'm so sensitive to bears or any animal in general. I could barely handle a commercial about animal adoption or animal rescue without crying. And seeing Oo for the first time and being introduced to her and just seeing this neurotic bear running in circles and also just trying to maintain my professionalism. I don't want to look like I'm judging in any way, and it
Mhm.
wasn't. And I don't want a bear to feel my sadness either, but I just wanted to cry when I first met her. How sad to be running in circles like that, to beat a path that hard into the ground, to be that terrified at all times in this insane heat. Borneo is so hot. And she was panting. She was running so much that she was constantly winded. And that was her day every day is just doing that all day. And it broke my heart to see something feel that way. And so OO became my priority immediately after kind of assessing everyone's situations. I, gauge like where I'm going to spend the most time, what I'm going to do. But I was also my first trip, and I knew I was coming in to do like enrichment and maybe some like training to help the vets out, to help get some of those important things like vaccinations or dental or aging and stuff like that done. Again, didn't really know that it would become this life-changing thing that like really helped save their lives in the long run. And the first step was not going to be like get right into training. It was, let's get her to calm down a little bit.
Hmm.
Let's break this path. Let's break this pattern. So yeah, first step with Oo was I shifted her in and was very naive in working in Borneo. and how much it truly wins you. I in the beginning I was like, God, everyone takes so many breaks here and takes really long breaks. So weird.
Yeah.
And 8-hour shifts in Hawaii and tropical weather and like being like, oh, I got this. No, it's still so much more like intense in Borneo. So go getter, I like went right in and was like turning this dirt that was rock hard, like concrete, and bringing in all these logs, moving everything around in the main area where she was pacing. And like I think it was in there for like 3 hours and I
So
almost
it's a,
passed out.
I was gonna say it's a concrete box in there almost as well.
Like yeah. Borneo did me in. I learned my lesson real quick that that's why everyone takes so many breaks and why
Mm.
the break is a little bit longer because it is this whole other level that just takes a lot out of you, especially with that humidity and the heat. So I almost made myself like completely pass out and puke on my first like working day there because I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna change everything in this holding area, no problem, easy breezy. And no, it was not easy breezy, but that was the first step with OO was to break her pattern. And that did help. And she couldn't run in circles anymore because she had logs that were kind of in her path and new things that were like, wait, what is this? And she wanted to still initially run in her same circle, but she had to suddenly like stop and just shove things out of the way too. Just that simple break of the pattern was step one for her, and it was really helpful. So in the most extreme situation possible, is it going to work? And yes, is it going to work fully? No, like they literally just shove everything out of the way and it works for just a temporary period, but it's enough to kind of break that mental pattern and to take a breather. And that's really all I needed to get started with OO. And trying to form a relationship was like just that second to like look at me or something, like give me something, because she was so hyper focused on just going in that circle. But yeah, OO took 11 days before we had the aha moment, 11 days before she stopped trying to charge at the gate or at the fencing every time I came around her. She was known as a highly aggressive bear from everyone throughout the village. And every morning I would start my day off with OO. And I didn't hop right into training. I actually, every morning for about those 10, 11 days, I just sat there. I sat there quietly, and I don't know if it helped or not, but I would, quietly in my sweet voice, just tell her that she is safe and that she is saved. And she has nothing to worry about for the rest of her life. And whether she understood that or not, or whether it was just that calm energy and what it did for me mentally and like where it put me with her, because it's hard to see something that's stressed out and to not feel it as well. It would remind myself that she was safe and that she is saved, and not to be sad about the situation, to be hopeful. I played this one song by Sean James very quietly called Insane. That's a beautiful just kind of guitar soft song, again, because it also puts me in a good place, but I feel like music is very healing. And so I would kind of have that going as like this calming thing in the background. And it took it very slowly with her of making sure that I was listening to her just as much as she was listening to me, going back to that bare body language and their movements, and always having that open dialogue with them when working with them in training. Is the communication is essential. It is not about them listening to you. It's actually more about you listening to them and understanding them and trying to figure out a form of communication that works for both of you. Every morning with OO really gave me that observation time and that time to break it down and understand it myself as a trainer and develop more into this rescue world. So it was a little bit of, just get a little bit closer every day and then just sit there and watch her and find out what her needs are and her wants are. And, the next morning a little bit closer and maybe move my hand a little bit towards her and just sit there quietly and tell her she's loved. It was day 11. I walked in the morning and she was not pacing. She was actually like kind of sitting in her quarters, and I had Sean James playing again, and slowly walk up, normal routine of like, hi, good morning. Just really like slow approaches. I also made sure I always approached her a little bit sideways, with my shoulders not square towards her for body language, bare body language. Really, most animals, you don't want to be squared off towards them. So it kind of always would go in a little bit sideways, a little bit hunched down with her, to make myself smaller and submissive. I took all those submissive cues. And this morning, she was just different. She was like waiting for me quietly and calmly and expecting that routine instead of going right into the pacing area, or already pacing. She actually approached me this morning and kind of like climbed up on the platform, and she put her arms up and like put her back up against the fencing and hooked her claws up into like the ceiling and like just mushed her back into the fencing. And I was like, she wants me to scratch her back for her. And so I just kind of like slowly approached and like went really like soft. And then she just really leaned into me. And I stayed with her for like 45 minutes. Like inside, like my heart is doing complete cartwheels. I'm like, oh my God, like she's never had human contact. Oh, we're doing this. Like, I'm freaking out. But what you're actually hearing is, oh, you are so loved. You're so sweet. And I'm like, I sound so calm, but the inside was like completely doing like jumping jacks and like fireworks going off. I was so happy. It was such a beautiful, beautiful moment and such a life-changing moment for me and in my career and my life's path, seeing what could be done through that patience and observation and taking that minute to as a trainer to be like, wait, no, like I this is not about me, this is about them. I've always been that way, but to truly
Hmm.
embrace, understand it, and to
I know
have that.
it's kind of like what people say about like there's the human agenda, but there's the bear agenda, and you've got to understand the bear's got its own wants, its own needs that are different to what you want, and you've got to really need to put theirs first in these situations because that's what you're there for.
Yeah, and it was a lot of communication from her and too, because she would, if I would, take maybe a step too close in the beginning before that day 11, it would be very intense, woof, and bluff charging. And so really understanding like with it was always like a kind of like a sudden like slight curl of the shoulders, or like just like a half a second of stop, or
Mm.
and so kind of understanding like what her like sign was to where I could learn to like, okay, just back up a little bit now. And so it was a lot of like back and forth of our understanding communication between each other and understanding like really what her language was rather than like trying to get her to understand what my language was. And it really shifted the entire way that I train and work with bears and understand bears. And really taught me the bear language, because she definitely love charged me. I don't know how many times. She was a scary bear.
Yeah, she could be. She could be. I feel like as well. It'd be nice to mention like what sort of communication or training techniques did you use after that? Then.
So, like I said before, with her, it was really about understanding like what her body language was going to be, because you want to back away when they charge you. Like you want to show them that you're listening, but you also don't want to be like you're dominating me either. So there's like this whole balance before like this aha moment happens with you and the bear, where they're like, "Oh, I get what you're trying to communicate with me, and I get what you're trying to tell me here, or like what your wants and needs are with this process." And so it really is a lot of back and forth. And with it was a lot of like she really used aggression to try to communicate what her wants and needs are. And so I had to take everything back into what we would in training world called approximations, which I hate, like let's just say baby steps. It took a lot of back and forth of understanding what her language is, like what's gonna push her too far or what's gonna make her be like, eh, and then be like, okay, like accept what's happening around her and know that she'll get rewarded from accepting what's going on around her, and that is actually a good thing.
Hmm.
So with Hope, it was first about kind of actually making that contact because you really can't address any needs if you can't get anywhere near that animal, if you can't even observe them because they're running around in circles. And so not only for her mentally to help her, it was we have to also be able to help her. This isn't a rescue situation. She's just running around in circles. Like, what if we need to do a knockdown? What if she needs her vaccinations, her medications? What if, there's a situation where she's caught and we need to help? So it was really breaking it down to baby steps of like, can you just let me be near you?
Hmm.
Without and so it was getting a little bit closer every day and then like kind of tossing in like a banana or some sort of food and then just not moving and just kind of sitting there quietly and doing it in very, very tiny, tiny little approximations or baby steps with her. And then once we got to even like the part where we could actually make contact after 11 days, then it was okay, like let's get her to target our sasaran, which would be to like guide her head in a direction because that's really important in any animal world is kind of communicating like, could you go here or could you go there or could you move your mouth away from me because that's the danger zone. And so I found that that would be a really, really easy first step. And also in creating, again, that aha moment of like, hey, if I'm around you, I get like honey and good things. And I kind of like being around this person over here. And this is kind of fun. Like, this is
Hmm.
engaging. It ended up being like they end up loving it. And you see how excited that they get. And
Oh
it
yeah,
really
I remember like by the time I got there, this is obviously a little after, and she would love that. She'd come up and she'd kind of put her paws down and wait there. She's like, I'm ready. I wanna start.
because the whole going back to the language thing is like, it's so I realized as a trainer, like it's not just about like, oh, okay, like now they understand what I want. It was like, okay, now I understand what they want too. And it's so much fun when you understand what they're trying to communicate
Hmm.
as well.
Yeah. I do remember as well though, you were sort of like it was like a fine line though, because you had to make sure that it didn't become that they were starting to dictate what was going on.
It's hilarious because yeah, like going back like 3 years later, it was the Bears had started to train all of the keepers. It's a very fine line between that open communication.
Yeah, and I suppose as well, there's a danger you want to avoid where, for want of a better way of describing it, like begging behavior, where it's almost like they start trying to do it because they think they're going to get something.
Yes, and so it's funny like when that point starts to happen, you're like, okay, well now they fully understand this behavior and like now they're actually trying to manipulate the situation. But I realized too that it's something that I really have to explain to new trainers that it is a very, very fine line. Like it's great when the animal understands like what you're asking so much that it begins just doing that behavior and starts asking you to get a reward because you're like, okay, they get it. And now they're like dictating the situation. But I realize that it becomes a very fine line because then the bear becomes the trainer and they are getting way too much honey or they'll start getting really overweight or it could also develop into another stereotypical behavior to where that bear might constantly be doing like the bears in Borneo love buka, the open
Uh,
mouth behavior
yeah, I
all the
know. I know because there was another a male bear called Bonnie, right? That sort of inspired. Did it inspire a technique that you sort of did Buka with him because he started just doing it, didn't he? What was it?
but
Oh,
but Bonnie was the one that like he would just open up like pack 90 degree like he took it to this whole other level and then all the bears like start really mimicking the way that he would do his buka but I believe like kind of like the idea of wanting that open mouth behavior but then how to really formulate it and do it developed with Bunny and like how I was going to be able to naturally get them to do this behavior. I learned from Bonnie again because it's all about listening to the bear
yeah.
and what I could do that is going to make them automatically do the behavior that I want. Like how I can move my body that might make them kind of move their body in a certain way. And it really starts from there. And so Bonnie's the one who really like showed me how to what we call capture that behavior of the open mouth. But then fast forward, I go back like a couple years later, and the bears had trained the keepers to throw food in their mouth because they would just do the open mouth behavior, and the keepers were like, "Oh, good." So I had to. It taught me like, oh, I need to make sure that everyone knows that there's a cue for this. And so it's like you ask for the behavior and then reward the bear when they do the behavior ask you after you ask for it, because there could be a really thin line between are you going to start another stereotypical behavior to where this bear now gets stressed out because you're not listening to it. So it really needs to be just very, very open communication and balanced of like, it's not all about I tell you what to do. It's not all about you tell me what to do. Like we're working together. It's mutual respect always. Borneo taught me that too when it comes to also training others on how to become like the best trainers that they can be.
Well, yeah, because there was another bear who, funny enough, was called Blackie, not in Honolulu, in Borneo. He was one who was like pacing back and forth. I think it was literally just like one or two sessions you were with him, and he was just calm. He was doing the target training and everything.
Part of my process, kind of going back real quick to how hard it is to understand a bear language is like you don't have those normal cues like eyes, ears, tail to really go off of when understanding what they're trying to communicate with you. So part of my process is I record every session with them. I usually have like a little GoPro or something set up,
Hmm.
and I'll review them and kind of capture like, oh, like his shoulders kind of curl right here, like right before he got upset. So like that's part of his body language right there. So it really helps me fine tune how I'm working with them, and how they're working with me and understanding their language. So that whole session was recorded. Now Blackie was scary bear. Just like give a little extra about Blackie. Like he was super aggressive. I remember meeting Blackie and
Hmm.
being like,
Oh yeah.
be extra careful with this one. Like, if he ever gets out, like, he will kill someone. Like, this bear will maul somebody. He is got like a hairpin trigger. It would be very quick with him too. Like, it would be like 1 second you're like he's lying, and then the next he's rah, rah,
Oh
like
yeah.
force aggression too. It was like not subtle. It was that bear would kill somebody. Bear, and he's like big, like muscly big. I remember him just being like, "Poof," you know. But yeah, I think I'd worked with him a few times and was able to pretty quickly kind of understand. Like he was easy to understand his language, because he was so like extreme. Like 1 second he's like la, la, and next like boom. So like his communication was pretty clear, so I was actually able to figure out Blackie pretty quickly, which is why you're like, yeah, like 2 day, like 2, 3
Well,
sessions.
that's what it
You're
felt like. It was just like, who's this? It's like, oh, it's this is his real personality now. Be himself
yeah,
finally.
Blackie really kind of taught me pretty quickly of like when to like step back, move forward, to understand him. And he of course loved training. They all end up loving like, oh hey, I got this reward from like getting near this person. That's great. I love honey or I love dog food. So eventually it doesn't typically take them too long for that click to happen. Blackie was, yeah, 3 days, 11. In that session with you and I think it was day 3 or 4 with him. And we were the very beginnings of Sasaran, and kind of getting a dynamic between the two of you. And this is also like me showing you like training because Blackie was a really good bear to help others kind of understand it with too because his language was so clear. So kind of helping you like understand like when to react and when not, with Blackie, or like it when to say like okay, just sit there, or like move it a little bit closer as far with the Sasaron or target. So we're working with him and he has done several Sasarons in a row at this point. But we did have to start off with target stick a little bit behind and doing the steps of like he doesn't touch it and you just sit there, and then eventually touched it. Um, I have that whole like moment of you doing the open mouth, excited look with your first sassafras. A
Oh, it's
beautiful view
fun.
for me as well. I love helping people understand training just as much. That aha moment with the other human is just as rewarding as that aha moment with the animal for me, I have found. And that's one thing that Borneo has really brought to me is my love of training others how to do this work with them. Um, and so yeah, you were really successful with him and we were on a good path with him. He was really receptive to the training. And so I, of course, wanted to push it a little bit more and see what we could do. And so in the video, we're taking those tiny baby steps, and you see like this sudden, like kind of distraction on Blackie, and both you and I was like, like I'm like kind of whisper something, and you kind of like move back a little bit, subtle with your body language, but and I was like, I think there's there's environmental context going on. And you hear me kind of whisper, I think there's environmental context going on because again, we're really quiet and slow, soft movements and doing when working with a bear that has just been rescued or just is super aggressive. You don't want to overwhelm them. So we're whispering and being super quiet and subtle with our movements. And then I whisper that, and then Blackie's like and you had like the ball of rewards in your hand, and we're sitting on that tiny, remember that stupid little tiny
A little
stool, the little
stool, yeah. It was like, I don't know where that was from, but
just off the ground. So we're like all these stupid little kiddie stools, and you had the bowl of food, and it went up like a mushroom bomb, like all the food, and you like flew backwards off the stool. And
that's me staying calm around the animals there.
and I just sat there because like I had just been like, there's environmental context, and like so I saw that he was about to have an extreme reaction, and like he's so scary. Like we're like just going back to like him being such an extreme bear and like so extra with his communication and like so right after I whispered that, he was like brah, and the just everything all at once of like you flying backwards off the stool and then the food like flying into the air, and it was actually a really really funny moment. But then Blackie also got like all of the food.
Yeah, at that point, he was welcome to it, to be honest.
That behavior, but we'll see how it goes. And thank God, like didn't become a thing at all. But I just remember you being like, "How did you not react to that?" And because it scared the shit out of you for a second, you know. And but that was a really fun moment for me as well. No offense to like see you fly off that stool
Thanks,
was
thanks.
but it was just that one little sudden like distraction with Blackie. I don't know if it was like a little side eye or like the way his head had slightly turned, where I was like, I knew he had had something that was out of our control that we were able to even perceive that had happened. And it was like the second those words came out is when he was like, "Ah." And
Mm.
then turns out someone had been bitten and by an orangutan at that very exact moment that you see the with the bear happen. So they're just so sensitive.
Yeah.
They everything, and so it probably smelled it, probably felt some stress. We haven't really
Well,
gotten into
yeah, and I bet it was like a ripple effect because obviously there's all the other animals around would have been reacting, and it was just
that. And we're just dumb humans that like didn't have any idea what was going on. We're like, there's something, but like
mm,
we just really saw Blackie's extreme like I'm gonna charge at you response now. And when we're working with them, like it is best to obviously like back away because of we are sitting close when we're training, and they can stick their little arms in and grab, and they are crazy crazy strong. So flying off the stool is actually appropriate. Like you don't want to get grabbed by them in any means. It was just a really funny in the way that it all
I
happened,
don't know, it
and
was a
like
controlled, it was all controlled. That's what it was.
it's really, really interesting how subtle it is with bears, that something else is going on or something kind of triggered them. He's so chill now.
Yeah, oh, he was great. Like he was one bear that I was very sure that he'd like never seen the outside of a cage. And then when he got put in with the three girls, and then we got them all introduced, obviously, and then they went out together, and the three of them were climbing, doing all sorts. He never did at all. And there was just one day where I was walking past and I saw a bear climb up a tree, and I had to sort of stop and go, wait. I'm like, Blackie, is that you? I was just like, he's doing it. It was such a lovely moment.
Aki really is like one of the really beautiful, beautiful success stories. He wasn't like running in circles like, but like to be angry like that all the time, to be aggressive like that all the time. There. He's obviously scared. He's obviously stressed. And he was so extreme.
Mm.
And
I remember
now,
he was like a ninja at one point. Like he was just like literally propped himself up in the sort of corner, the bars. I'm like, what? How are you even doing that? It's just like,
oh yeah, oh my God, I forgot about that. Yeah, he was so upset and so stressed. And
but no, happy place now.
yeah, and now it's like you wouldn't even know that that was the beginning of his story. And like, look what we did for him, Philip. And that's why I love this work and love being a part of this chapter in their life is kind of creating that bridge for them. How amazing. God, you wouldn't, yeah, he's so chill. He kind of almost like compared to the girls, he's like probably the chillest one of them
Oh
all.
yeah,
Angry, scary bear.
kind of thought might be nice if you had any words for people who wanted to get involved in rescue work.
Do it. I know that sounds stupid and cliche, but like I said in the beginning, I just did this project in college and was like, I need to do this by the time I'm 30. Like I set myself like I was still in my early 20s, if not even 21 yet, probably at that time. So I gave myself plenty leeway time to like get to the ultimate dream goal because stuff doesn't just happen overnight. But I am a firm believer, like if you have a goal, you're going to get to it no matter what the obstacle is. Like you just have to set it. And if you don't have outside help financially, I do not. I'm just a zookeeper, and that is not a career where you make a lot of money. You have to be very strict about sticking to that goal. I actually have a savings account for rescue work. Is that completely wise? I don't know because I like care more about that than my retirement plan, but it's also about being happy in this life. And this life is short, and I care more about that and sticking to my values. So know what your values are, know what your goals are, and stick to them. Start that savings account if you need to, and know what you're getting into because it's not what TV makes it look like. It's not like hugging baby animals. It is you're coming home covered in cuts and bruises every night. You have extreme stories every single day. You are in a place where you don't necessarily understand the language, and you depend a lot on that universal language that is the love for animals and nature and the love for helping the animals, which actually gets you really far. But it's not easy by any means, and expect that, but stick to your values. For me, it I feel the most important in this world when I'm doing that work. I don't know if that makes sense, but when I'm there, I feel like what I'm doing holds value for this planet, which also holds value to me. And it makes me think of 5-year-old me who drew that picture. And I'm like, I would be proud of this work. It's always going to be animal before ego. None of that ego stuff where it's about you having this amazing relationship with the bear. Let's show everyone how to like have these bears at peace and to understand that they're rescued. Spread the word. I don't want to be known as this expert bear trainer. I want everyone to be known like that. That I want that to be my legacy is that I shared how to help bears. Not that I was the one that necessarily helped them, that my whole team did. And always have a passport ready, like
Love it. Yeah,
essential.
that is essential. No. It makes complete sense what you're saying. You're never gonna have all the money in the world to do it. You've just got to make things work somehow. You got to put
And
yourself out there.
like we're not getting rewarded like financially.
Oh yeah, there's
But
It's a very can be very unrewarding work day in day out, but the
Like
overall reward is there.
a lot of money while we're there, but like there's no type of financial reward that could ever match to like that feeling of what I just said of like knowing that what you're doing holds value in this world. I mean, how beautiful is that? Like you're saving lives. And
Mm.
bears are just so important. Like everything a bear does holds value. Like even a single pile of bear poop can plant up to 1,000 trees. Like I can't say that about myself as a human. So I want like something
Get
that I
out.
do
Get out there in the fields, Adrian. Come on.
be a bear,
Yeah.
but poop 1,000 trees out
Mm.
like a bear.
It's like there's always going to be an excuse not to do it, right? I mean, as long as you've got enough to get by, then,
You don't need to like, and you're gonna get things that you need eventually too when you're there. Like you don't need to freak out about like a million supplies because it's gonna work out, and you just also have to have that faith and that courage. True courage is being afraid but doing it anyways. It's gonna be scary, but like just have the courage to do it. You might be a little broke afterwards, but you'll be happy and you just saved a bunch of bears.
hmm
And you could also raise money.
We continued our chat deep into the night, and I eventually got round to asking Adrian what her plans were for the future, and she does have plans to get back out to Indonesia and carry on with more rescue work. She does also know Femke, co-founder of Jan, who was a guest on a previous episode, and has done some work with her, so I'll let her speak about that herself.
I think we covered everything. I talked a little bit about the three bears that we helped with Fimca.
hmm
That's also a really amazing experience helping them physically there, but then also afterwards from afar. One really, really amazing thing about those three bears that I do want to throw in that like as I've developed more and into rescue work and understanding bears is those working with them initially for the first 15 minutes was absolutely mind-blowing, not only to me but the people who were at the center that the bears were being held originally at. They were in really small holdings. This facility was not meant for bears, but they helped them and continued to help them by getting them relocated. But that when they had confiscated, it was right before COVID hit, and so then they got kind of held in this little
Mm.
holding long because the world had to stop when COVID happened.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I was like, just give me like 30 minutes alone with these bears. Let me try to figure them out. Like if we could take them on, like if we'll be able to work with them, if they're releasable or not. Just like give me like just 30 minutes alone. And one thing I love is I get super like people will look at me and they're like, be careful. Like do you know what you're doing with bear? Like bears are dangerous. Like
Who is this lady? She lost? Is it?
and so he was like really hesitant, Dr. Patrick. He's a super nice guy. But he was hesitant to leave me alone with the bears at all. And I was like, just 30 minutes, like just give me 30 minutes. I came back in 15 minutes and it was like they all know three, like all three of them know three different behaviors now. And they're like, what? And I'm like, I don't know. Like I can't even it's like, yeah, they come watch. And I went up and I was like, Target, the Target, like they are sasaran, say it in
hmm
Indonesian. And Buka was one of them. I maybe it was two. I can't remember what the third one was, but it was also three bears in like a matter of 15 minutes. And I'm like, is this a fluke? Like you have this moment as a trainer of like, is this just coincidence that they know what I'm asking and want and that they know what to do? And so then like, you do it again and they're like Sasaran and then they target again and then Buka and they Buka again. And you're like, I'm having this whole I'm like, these bears have never been trained in their life. These are rescued animals. They've been in these tiny little holding. How the hell do they know what I'm asking? And it was such like after like doing it for years, I'm still questioning it. Like I am still like how did they know what I was thinking? How
Mm.
did they know exactly what I want? Why
They
did
just
they not
love. They loved your confidence. They just were like, "Yeah, we'll do it."
like really a lot of it is though is like having at this point like a lot of the crazy bear experience and rescues and kind of knowing what to expect, but spending so much time understanding their language is it
Mm.
really kind of become this mutual thing of like, I'm so sensitive to what they're communicating that, it's still mind blowing, but it's also, I've learned how to work with what a bear's naturally going to do and understand their natural behaviors. And so like this movement will elicit this reaction. And so it's also become just more mind blowing and interesting. And it feels magical at times, the longer you do it, because they become so sensitive to you, the more sensitive you become to them. And it's so beautiful. So, like, even in that scenario of meeting three crazy bears in these tiny holdings for years because of COVID, in a matter of 15 minutes, they suddenly were like, oh, if I do this, then I get honey. And like, that's cool. And that was the first, when we eventually were able to get them and intro them. That was the first time I ever introduced three bears at the same time to each other. And
Oh, nice.
but we were able to do that because of like being able to understand their pecking order so quickly and their communication and their language so quickly. And Bimka's team just being so amazing and open, and there's no ego stuff there. So it was very much of like, okay, here's the plan. Here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna stand here. If anything happens, you can do this, and that like everyone is so receptive and on point that it was the most beautiful introduction I think I've ever been a part of. Was those three bears at the same time. It was such a cool experience. So I love her team. Yeah, but that it's really fun, like the more you understand what they're trying to communicate. And I just want to share that with the world because it huge difference. And I hope that everyone understands that it's not acceptable for a bear to be pacing. We shouldn't accept that as the bar. A bear should be foraging and doing bear things, and you shouldn't see them stressed. We shouldn't accept that. And if that's our exception in captivity, then bears in captivity needs to stop now.
Well, thank you, Adrienne. No, it's been lovely. It's been lovely chatting, reminiscing. Hopefully, when we'll be able to see each other in Indonesia soon enough. Thank you again, everyone. And just in case you're wondering, yes, in the next episode, we do continue our jaunt around Indonesia, but the next one is a little bit of a special episode. I actually recorded this one in situ when I was in Sumatra, an island in sort of western Indonesia, last year. And here is when I sat down with my friend Leslie Small, founder of Sumatran Sun Bear Team. And I can't wait to share it with you. See you then. The Bear Den, the American Bear Association podcast, was written and presented by me, Philip Pstubley. The music was composed by React Music. Thank you to everyone who has helped make this podcast possible, including Karen Hausman, Bill Lee, Clary Lee, Stephanie Horner, Donna Brzezinka, Ross Coyer, and Angie Page. You can find out more about the American Bear Association at americanbear.org. You can find Vinshuti Wildlife Sanctuary on Facebook and Instagram. You can ask questions and submit comments about the podcast to pstubley@americanbear.org. The ABA is a special circumstance. We do not condone feeding wild animals. If you enjoy this podcast, help support the ABA either by donating, becoming an ABA member, symbolically adopting a bear, or come visit the sanctuary during the season and say hello. And if you do enjoy this, please do us a favour. It'll barely take you a minute. On whatever platform you're listening to this on, please either follow us or click the bell for updates and notifications. Please share with family and friends and rate the podcast, as it all helps us grow and is greatly appreciated.